Okay. Michael Dunn is, I think, probably the leading expert outside of China on the Chinese auto industry. He's been in the auto industry and studying the auto industry for about 30 years, something like that. First went to China in 1990, right after he got his MBA. He was running a big part of GM in Asia at one time. And he has slides, but we decided we're going to only use them selectively. Yeah. In fact, I wanted to get them on my screen to make sure that I was aware of what we were not using at that given moment. Oops, where did they go? Oh, well, who knows? Oh, there they are. So, I mean, give us the top-level view of what's happening with Chinese auto industry vis-a-vis the rest of the world.
Right. China wants to be king of the hill. Forever, they've been playing catch-up through joint ventures with global automakers inside China. A few years ago, they went to a seaside resort and said, we want to be number one, and in order to be number one, we need to be number one in electrics and autonomous vehicles. How would they do that? They want to harness the capabilities of their leading tech companies, Tencent, Alibaba, Baidu, to get there and no longer be dependent on global automakers for technology. That's the big move that China's making right now.
And how are they doing with that?
Pretty well, surprisingly well. If you think about it, China's dominating the global EV electric vehicle market last year, accounting for 60% of global production and sales, 1.2 million out of 2.1 globally. Not only are they strong in electrics, but they're also strong in autonomous technologies, thanks in large part to the R&D they're doing right here in California. As we speak, there are 14 Chinese companies testing autonomous cars on California roads, and there's another 7 Chinese electric vehicle companies also doing R&D in California.
So 21 Chinese companies doing cutting-edge auto R&D in California.
Right in our backyard.
Now, does that suggest they want something here more than our roads?
Absolutely. The talent they're hiring is first-class talent from Tesla, Google, Apple, and others. And the game plan is to secure that knowledge, bring it back to China, and plug it into the world's largest car market by far. You know, keep in mind, China's the largest market by a factor of 1.5 times the size of the United States.
In terms of car sales annually?
Car sales annually. Biggest luxury car market by far, and now the largest electric vehicle market.
Wow. Yeah. So is that something we should do something about, or should we just like watch it with interest?
Absolutely. It's time for the U.S. to wake up to the reality that it's being challenged for supremacy in automotive by China. This is not something, it's not a dream or some big picture. It's happening as we speak. And there are activities. If I can skip forward to a few slides to give you a map. My company, ZOZOGO, recently did research to determine just how many Chinese automotive companies are operating in the United States today. Look at the number. Who here would have guessed there's 175 Chinese automakers, suppliers, and tech companies coast to coast, 40 of them here in California. This has definitely drawn the attention of the Trump administration wanting to know what precisely is going on in those R&D centers.
Of course, there's nothing wrong with Chinese companies operating here. We believe in global economy, free trade, kind of, right? But what should the Trump administration be understanding that they don't, or what should they be doing that they're not?
You know, ultimately, this gets back to a core issue beyond trade, the trade war, is market access. So the Chinese automakers and suppliers can walk into the United States carte blanche, no problems, no questions asked, green light. The same is not true when U.S. automakers and suppliers go into China. They have to joint venture, for example, or the tech companies have incredible difficulty securing the right licenses to operate there. So it's a one-way street, and there's no problem with the Chinese being here, provided that we'd get same terms going into China. That's not the case today.
Well, I still don't know what we should do. I mean, so should we? It sounds like a trade issue. I mean, in a way, those are non-tariff barriers, right?
It is a trade issue. It's a tech issue, market access issue. It's all of the issues bundled together that, you know, the word decoupling comes to mind. A lot of people ask me, are we seeing the beginning of decoupling between China and the United States? More arrows are pointing in that direction than against it. And when we think about it, China's relationship with the United States for the last 50 years has largely been determined by transactions between companies, not shared core values or interests. That's now coming up to the surface. And are we really tight friends or are we adversaries? That's the question being asked.
Well, I don't know if you heard Martin Sorrell this morning, but he said, we're really just wrong not to accept the reality that they were the world's largest economy. They're going to be the world's largest economy. They want to be respected for that, and we need to kind of readjust our thinking about them. How do you respond to that?
Carefully. I think that I don't know how much time Martin spent on the ground in China knowing the realities of Chinese society and the controls of information and behavior. It's a different place from our United States. So it is true that the United States could do a better job of managing China's rise, but at the same time, let's not be naive to think, well, everything will be okay if we just allow them to do as they please globally. Look at what happened with the NBA recently. You'll recall that the general manager at the Houston Rockets tweeted out and said, I stand with Hong Kong. That caused an uproar in Chinese government, and they said, please fire it. Okay, so we all know the story. In a sense, we here all are the NBA now. We have to make tough decisions about how we want to engage with China. What's the cost of market access there? Are you going to say, well, we want to continue to sell our cars into the market, therefore we'll toe the line? That's a big question out there for everybody.
It's a tough one. You go to China all the time, right?
Yes.
And you talk like this. Are you worried that one of these days they're going to say, Michael Dunn, stay home?
Well, I already wrote a book that's been banned in China called American Wheels, Chinese Roads. And as a matter of fact, my most recent visit in China, the person at immigration took a long, hard look, much longer than ever before. And it did make me think twice about stepping across the line for the first time. I've never felt that before. I think China knows at a gut level that it's had really tremendous benefits from the relationship. It is time for a reset. I'm optimistic that a reset will be reached. It'll take years to get there, though. If you have a moment, I'd just like to show you some of the cars.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how good are the cars since they're putting so much into them?
These are terrific, actually terrific, modern, all-electric cars, priced where? Not where you'd expect them on the low end, but $135,000. This is a Karma Rivero, used to be Fisker. It's based in Los Angeles. It's on sale now. If you go to Hollywood, you can see some of these. $135,000 Chinese car. Then you have the Polestar, which
That's
is
entirely owned by China now.
Entirely owned by China.
Yeah.
Second one is called the Polestar. That's a new brand under Volvo, all electrics, terrific looking car. That'll come to the United States probably next year. Look at that price, $63,000. And then yet another one called the Byton. That's short for Bytes on Wheels, a nod to the software aspect of future cars, $75,000. All three of these companies and others are now developing their products in California and for sale here in the United States and in China.
Somebody said on the stage earlier today that Tesla is clear, far and away, still the leader in electric vehicles. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Primarily because they add the connectivity component, that big screen in the middle with updates all the time. Tremendous. I drove up here from San Diego. Through a software update, my range on my battery, the distance I was allowed to drive or able to drive, was increased by 10% simply by hitting a download of a software improvement.
While you were driving?
I parked.
You parked?
You got to park, find a Wi-Fi.
You drove your Tesla from San Diego to here?
Yes.
So you have one. That's a strong statement right there. Okay.
It's a fantastic vehicle, not only because of its electric capabilities, but because of more importantly, it's connected, and it's the most advanced product on the road by far.
And they're moving into China in a big way, even more than they are already there, right?
Yes, yes. As we speak, Gigafactory number 2, Europe's going to be number 3. They'll start producing Teslas in Shanghai in January, and I'm optimistic about the prospects. Tesla has a great following, highly regarded. There's already if you go to Shanghai or Beijing, you'll see them on the road.
It's already their biggest market, isn't it, China?
Outside of United States.
It's still not anywhere near as big as the U.S.?
Not in anywhere, because they need to produce to get the cost
Okay, to
down.
get the access. But they sold tens of thousands of cars
Yes,
there, right?
they have.
Yeah.
They have. And that's why did China allow that to happen, for them to invest and own 100%? My read is that China's goal is to become the hub for the world in electric vehicle production. And the way the United States policy is shaping up right now, we're not only second, but we're a distant third behind Europe in terms of putting in place regulations to encourage electric vehicles.
But Tesla being there presumably will increase the quality of the whole supply chain in China indirectly, right?
Absolutely. They'll bring first-class suppliers, the connectivity aspect, the autonomy aspect. I mean, Tesla brings the whole package: electric, autonomous, connected.
Autonomous is an interesting thing, and I want to hear audience. I'm sure there's car people who have questions. But, John Chen said on the stage earlier that he didn't think we'd really see widespread autonomy for 15 years. Then we heard Waymo be much more optimistic about that. Where do you come down on that in general, but maybe in the United States, but also in China? Is it going to happen much faster in China because they could just decide to do it regardless of whatever risk profile might emerge?
Yes, listening to John this morning, he mentioned regulation. China enjoys a huge edge over the United States in that regard. Tomorrow, highway between Shanghai and Beijing will be autonomous. Any objections? They can do it overnight. They can also, they can support the collection of data, which is fundamental to improving autonomous driving. So look for China to come up quickly in autonomous driving and equal US capabilities.
Are they likely to lead the world in that, leaving aside the electric?
Being the key. If the Chinese government wants to lead, it'll make the regulatory environment conducive to that, build the infrastructure for it, and here we go.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
who has a question? Okay, right back there. And then we get to Ford. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Is this?
I don't know. Talk into it.
No? Oh, there we go. There we go. Olivia at The Telegraph. Hi. I'm intrigued by the aspect of this. I was reading about the rare earth minerals and how China's really leveraged its availability of rare earth minerals, and it's really kind of managed to push the price down, producing them at a loss. Lots of things that the United States and other parts of the world hasn't been doing or possibly can't do. I wondered how hopeful you were for, I know that there's a mine near Vegas that's trying to kind of ramp up and become a competitor. How important is that in this, and how hopeful are you that other countries are going to be able to compete with China on that front?
Right, China does enjoy a tremendous edge in that regard. There are other sources around the world being developed, so I'm less concerned about that than I was a few years ago. Also, China has
This
come
is for what exactly?
for rare earths,
Oh, rare earths. Right.
which are crucial to,
Right.
yeah. At the same time, China has moved a little bit away from EVs only, and they're now opening up to hybrids and fuel cell options. That wasn't the case before. So suddenly, to have access to the China market, you can go in and not be a leader in EVs. You can focus on fuel cell or hybrids, and you'll still get market access. So I'm less concerned today than I was a few years ago.
Ken Washington. CTO Ford, just so you know.
Might be the only car guy here, but anyway, it's really great to hear you talk about China. This is a really super important topic. I just have a couple comments and then one question. My first comment is, if you go back to the pictures you showed, they are beautiful cars, but they're also very expensive cars.
Yes.
And I think it's important to note that for battery electric vehicles to get to a larger adoption rate, we've got to find a way to put into the market affordable battery electric vehicles for everyone. And so I can't resist the urge to put a shameless plug in for the brand new Ford Mustang Mach-E. $43,000, okay? So that's a more affordable vehicle.
Is that all electric, or is
That's
that
an
hybrid?
all-electric 300-mile OTA 15.5-inch screen battery electric vehicle.
Mustang,
Made here, designed and built in the USA, integrated.
Are they going to have a convertible version of it?
No.
Oh.
Second comment I'd make is I think one of the issues we have is China has a real AI national strategy. The United States does not. And so if we really are serious about being on a level playing field, we ought to do some things that are within our own control. which is put into place a national policy and strategy around artificial intelligence so that we can have a fair fight. So that's another key comment. And then my question is, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how the US-based OEMs, the automakers and suppliers should play in China, given that we all aspire to have good market share in the world's largest automotive economy. We're a global company. We have a China operation. We're going to be building cars in China for China, including our luxury Lincoln brands. But we want those to be on, again, a level playing field. And right now, it seems like it's an unfair fight. Any thoughts or comments or suggestions you'd have for companies like Ford and GM and Fiat Chrysler?
Right. The Detroit 3 do sell a couple, almost 3 million cars a year in China, so not bad.
Wow.
But in recent years, the market share for the Detroit 3 has been declining as Chinese domestic producers have improved, and as perhaps companies like Toyota and Honda have really enjoyed a better reputation for service and other things. So how can the Detroit 3 grow most effectively? I think it requires enormous resources to say, we will be competitive with electrics and autonomous in China. And the mindset of the Detroit 3 is still weighted heavily in North America, and China is a plus business, sort of a plus business. It's been a profit machine for years. Now it's slowing down. It's become tougher. So counterintuitively, it'll require more resources into more products, better customer service to keep ahead of the competition from the Chinese brands that are vastly improved from just a few years ago. It's a grinded out market. It's the biggest market. The Detroit 3 can play and win there, but it's going to require a lot more money and people than we put in so far.
Well, that's a good, meaty ending, and we've got to wrap. But thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you.